the thing that I've been thinking about a lot as I'm a fan of that show and how it's going to change is I'm curious to get your take on Stephen A. Smith from a racial perspective. Specifically, I've seen complaints online, YouTube videos accusing him of cooning.
Oh, totally. Tons.
Calling him a coon and an Uncle Tom and I'm curious to get your perspective on that, because I see where I like and appreciate him as a persona, as kind of a caricature, and then and I know he has prominent black fans too.
Sure.
The host Sway really likes him.
And he's got a ton of. I think part of the success of that show is the strength among the black audience. If you look at the demos, it does very well.
Yeah, so I would hate to think that unconsciously I'm a fan of this person because he's a clown. But I can think of other people I'm a fan of. I love Jalen Rose. I love Herm Edwards for completely different reasons. I like Ryan Clark a lot.
You're talking all black hosts.
Yeah. I'm just the people, and I love Jamel Hill is my favorite of all of the motherfuckers.
I've come around on her. I've come around. I didn't like her at first, but I've come around. I've listened to some of his and hers. Their podcast is pretty good.
Yeah, I love their rapport. You cannot accuse them of being clowns they always weave in profound social perspective and in this really super cool way. Like I genuinely admire her work. Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, I consider them entertainers.
Yeah. Rush Limbaugh.
No. I wouldn't insult them.
No, just because Rush called himself an entertainer.
Okay. They're so good at comedy. They may not even know they're doing it. I don't know. But Jamel Hill and Michael Smith they are genuine commentators. They're social eyes and ears, I think. But what is your take on that when you hear people accuse Stephen A. of being a coon?
I think the incident that in most cases that people point to is when Michelle Beadle lost her shit. For those of you who don't know who she is or aren't a fan of Michelle Beadle, she hosts Sports Nation and is a very popular ESPN personality. And I forget what the flap was. It was essentially Stephen A. He definitely pushed the limit. It was just like he said. Essentially, he talked about how. I think it was with the Ray Rice elevator situation.
He said women should be careful not to provoke men.
Yes.
Which I did not actually think. I think that was taken way out of context. I didn't think he should have been excoriated for that. I thought he should have known better that was going to be the reaction to it.
Sure.
But his point was actually he was not. I thought his point was cast in a negative light. And, we've discussed this before, how you can't say anything that goes against the sort of herd thinking of where we're supposed to be relative to these social issues. But anyway, Michelle Beadle took issue and challenged him on it.
And just to join you out on that limb, I do think that his thoughts were totally taken out of context in that. No, I don't even think that's the proper phrase for it. I think that I don't feel that what he was saying in the reaction to it matched up.
No, because people didn't hear what he was actually saying.
They heard the soundbite and
they heard what they wanted to hear. He wasn't saying women who are in violent domestic partnerships are to blame.
Sure.
He was saying that they also need to be careful in the situation they're in.
Sure.
To not provoke And I think that's a perfectly valid fucking point, and we can address that a whole nother
we can do that in a whole
time.
other...
But Willie D from the Ghetto Boys was
Sure.
one of the things like I don't remember if he said I hate Stephen A. Smith or he's not a fan. I know that was the issue he pointed to. He said, well, when he's up there telling black people they got to do this,
Right.
they got to do this, they got to do this, and
then Michelle Beadle comes at him.
And then he accepts a suspension and
Does not fight it at all. Isn't bitter about it at all. And I can totally see how that could be seen as cooning. Do I see him as a coon? I do not see him as a coon. I do see him as as you said, an entertainer. I don't think he's sort of. I think you can be both. I don't think he is necessarily both. I feel like they're. I think when millions of dollars are at stake,
mm-hmm.
when your TV slot's at stake,
Mm-hmm.
when you're at a show that doesn't go on hiatus when you leave the air, when you look at the ratings and it's like they're basically the same when you're gone.
Right.
And you've lost. ESPN has cut you loose before. I mean, this is not the first go around with Stephen A.
Right. He's been suspended before.
Not just suspended. Like he had quite frankly with Stephen A. Smith. I don't know if you recall this.
I don't
scenario.
recall that.
He had his own ESPN hour-long show with a studio audience.
Right.
Doing Phil Donahue style. All right? And they cut him loose. Completely.
So they have fired and rehired him, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, now he works for Sirius and ESPN.
Yes, and which is a very smart move on his behalf because the multiple streams of income.
Right, and then both shows plug each other.
And also you just it puts him in a better position of power.
Sure.
Just like I'm certain that the way that Sirius throws around money at big names, that he's making more than enough just to do well off that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being completely on the ESPN.
Right.
So, like, from the perspective of the situation he was in, he knows it can go away. He knows ESPN is not afraid to make things go away.
Right. If they let Bill Simmons go, then they'll let anybody go.
You brought up Kurt Schilling earlier.
Right.
I mean, he's long gone. Like,
sure.
They're not afraid to just say naked man up.
Right. But the other thing is, I don't think it was that he was caving to Michelle Beadle.
Yeah.
I think he knew that the issue that to be misinterpreted.
Sure.
With respect to that issue being so hot currently, he knew better than to try to shout against that.
I'm not sure he did. Because let's talk about more of their carnival act, right? Him and Skip, what they do, right? What they do is they are the worst of sports talk radio. Like, just pushed to the extreme of, I'm going to take this very strong opinion and I'm going to push it hard. And I'm going to push it hard for 12 minutes straight.
And you're not giving them credit for one of their most, I think, underappreciated skills. They can push hard on two opposing positions for 12 minutes apiece and still manage to talk around the issue.
Yes.
Which is like, so like with concussions and things like that, it's like they can bang the drum so that the issue is like they're saying it over and over, but they're avoiding the actual issue. It's like, wow, how do you do that? And still manage to spin it the way you'd suspect ESPN wants it spun.
Yeah. I think Well, yeah, I definitely agree on that one, and I feel like there's an amount of hubris that it takes to do a show like that. That plus Stephen A. is very, very used to preaching to black people, as you illustrated earlier.
Yeah, that whole respectability politics, is that what the term for that? Like the whole Bill Cosby stance, pull your pants
he's
up.
Definitely in the Bill Cosby kind of camp.
Chris Rock has been put in that under that same heading.
I don't think that's as true with Chris, but I've heard people push him that way, but I haven't had he hasn't taken that hard turn yet. I hope he doesn't.
See, again, I feel, obviously I'm not black, so but when I listen to Stephen A. Smith, I feel that people who take issue with him doing that are also taking him out of context. He is not saying that for the benefit of white people or white America to look askance at black America. I don't think he's not selling out and allowing white Americans, middle Americans to look worse at black people. I think he is directly addressing the world he comes from. This is the sense I get. I don't know. I don't know what makes the man tick. I would hope that there's some integrity there, and that there's some genuine passion for caring about people, and and he does bring up race issues. On the other side of it, he's accused of being a race baiter.
Sure.
So it's like you can't win if you're in his position. White Americans who don't want to hear about, or any Americans who just don't want to hear about race, are going to call you a race baiter, but then black people are going to always be. I mean, he's in a position where some black people will always be like looking at him with a fine-tooth comb, waiting for him to fuck up, basically, and like you got to represent all the time. When I hear him talk about, I mean, yeah, he's a really hyper-capitalist, and he's all about, that's a little bit silly to me, but I don't get the impression he's saying things that make the black community look bad. He's saying, this is my sense, we can do better than this. So what are you hearing from him? Like what is your take when you hear him go on those?
I don't think
when he gets to his pulpit.
I don't think that he is. I honestly don't feel that he is. I don't see him as altruistic as you seem to.
Huh.
I don't think he actually cares.
About what?
I don't think he's saying that he says the things that he says about the black community, and because he wants us to like, hey, we can be better than that. I don't see that from him. What I do see from him is a guy who's got a lot of time to fill, and is doing a virtually impossible job, and what they do, skill-wise, is incredible.
What's impossible about what he's pulling off specifically?
Well, okay, so let's look at his two jobs, his two main jobs.
Right.
First Take, where you babble for 12 minutes at a time, right?
Right, they usually let him go first, right?
Yes.
He usually starts.
And I'm just going to stop like this. Have my pregnant pause.
Right.
And Skip Bayless.
Right. And I love how they say each other's full names all the time. I love that. Skip Bayless.
Stephen A.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have Sports Talk Radio.
Right.
Which is another virtually impossible job.
Right. And he's sitting there by himself in that chair most. I mean, he has guests and stuff like that.
Yes,
He doesn't have somebody to play off of.
I don't think. I know when he was doing with ESPN, he had a guy, but I don't think he has as serious at all.
No, because he posts little badly done videos of. They must be off somebody's phone, his producer or something. They post them on Facebook for some reason. of like it looks like a phone video, and it's usually oriented badly, and then the phone will slip and fall, and yeah, it's on the desk. So when he's pounding the table, and then you see him checking his like laptop, like or something while he's talking, which I don't want to see that. But
hire a digital producer.
Yeah. I think it's just little videos.
I'm available, Stephen A.
Nice. I think you should reach out to him. I'll tell you sometime about the email I sent to Mark Maron offering him my services.
Oh wow.
That's for another day.
Another day.
That's a good one. But I think there's just little videos to get people to remind them on Facebook. Oh yeah, his thing. He's doing it now. So you're saying it's an impossible job to just talk that much?
Yes, I think it's an impossible job to talk that much. And I think when you do that much, things that do matter to you and things that work start to blur.
I would agree with that. And you become conscious of the fact that you have inadvertently created a persona.
And you have to feed that beast.
And I think, he has a way of saying things, and I know this from my own experience and not nearly at the same scale. I know this from my own experience with dealing with people who are in my personal life and how they respond to the things I say. If you tend to have a nuanced view of things that doesn't fit neatly into one category or another, but people don't hear the nuances, you unconsciously start saying things in a way that's provocative. I know I've fallen into this trap, and I catch myself. Stephen A., I think, does this all the time. You start emphasizing certain words, and I wish I could give you an example. Like his stance on Black Lives Matter. It's very, you really have to, concentrate. If you just take it at the bold words, the way he presents it, you can easily get the wrong impression from what he's saying. But what happens is when you perceive things in a way that, how should I put this? There's shades in there. You learn early in life that people get angry at you for not having a clear-cut position on things, or for not having a binary take on things. Stephen A. Smith strikes me as a person who unconsciously is aware of that and has built a persona and a career on saying things that are slightly misleading, that you have to work to get to the nuggets of what he actually means. Because he leaves them out for you to take him the wrong way and get mad about it, right? I think you're absolutely right. When you get rewarded for doing that, it's like those guys can probably talk in a way that suits the interest of the show without having to think about it at this point. It's probably in their bones by now. That's kind of scary.
And that's what's going to be, on a different note, that's going to be really interesting with Skip on his own.
Right. Right. Because Stephen A. can generate that. He can argue with the straw people in his head, right?
Yeah.
He can yeah, so but as far as, you don't think he cares at all about...
I think he does. I don't think he cares to the degree that it comes off. I think it hits on the thing you were talking about, where cadence and inflection and being a skilled communicator, you can, and I've mentioned this before, the impact versus intent. I think that his intent, his impact, they don't line up.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
Because I think if they did, we would see him be more of a political force than he is.
Oh, wow, yeah, he would be out there on issues more.
And I think, honestly, I think Fox News would love to have him.
Ooh, what are you saying there?
And that, A, they're big fans of his, in between his stints at ESPN, he became a regular
Like a guest.
regular guest.
But what's
And I also think that they haven't quite found that skilled black conservative, especially Fox News brand of conservative voice.
well, then he would definitely be accused of being a coon. Then,
Oh, totally.
At that point,
Totally.
if he, and I would be.
I think that's available to him if he wants it.
Yeah, because he's the type of black voice that serves their purpose. That kind of like, then he would be doing exactly what I was saying I don't think he's guilty of yet, anyway. It's interesting.
So he's got that gear to go to if he wants it.
Yeah, well, maybe he thinks that he does enough by he's doing it in his sphere, in his area of expertise and in his comfort zone by bringing these issues to light. I mean, he might genuinely feel like he's doing the right thing. I like to think some people can think that, even if they're not doing the right. I like to think at least they think, that by bringing these issues to light in the context of sports, maybe he thinks that's his contribution.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, do you see him? We don't see him out there on issues much the way some people they align themselves with a cause or something. We
Right.
don't see that. Wow.